Let me say something that might sting a little. But if you're still here listening, it's because part of you already know it's true. At some point, we all have to stop blaming everyone else for a life we participated in building. I'm not saying life was fair. I'm not saying you didn't experience pain, trauma, betrayal, loss, or setbacks. I'm not saying the system didn't fail you. What I am saying is this: if you keep playing the victim in the life you created, you'll never become the person you're capable of being. And I had to learn this the hard way. The victim mindset is seductive. It feels good at first. It gives you an explanation. It gives you a story. It gives you something to point at. They did this to me. I grew up like this. I never had a chance. That's just how it is. And listen, some of that may be true, but here's the part nobody tells you. The victim mindset doesn't just explain your pain, it traps you inside it. Because as long as someone else is responsible, you never have to take ownership. And ownership is scary because ownership means you have to change. Listen, there was a time in my life I had every excuse lined up. I could blame my childhood. Shit, I really could. I could talk about growing up too fast, seeing things I wasn't ready for, learning how to survive instead of how to dream. I could talk about not having the guidance, the structure, the emotional safety that other people take for granted. And the truth is, that stuff mattered. It shaped me, it scarred me. But at some point, I had to face something painful. My childhood explained my wounds, but it didn't excuse me bleeding on my future. I could blame my environment. I could say I came from a place where dysfunction was normal, where chaos felt familiar, where nobody was really talking about discipline, ownership, or long term thinking. I could say I learned bad habits before I learned good ones, and that's true. But what I had to admit was this: I left the environment physically, but I carried it mentally. And after a while, that part was on me. I could blame alcohol. I could say it was everywhere, that it was passed down, that it was normalized, that it numbed pain I didn't want to deal with and gave me excuses I didn't want to question. I could say alcohol slowed me down, clouded my judgment, and kept me stuck longer than I should have been. But here's the raw truth: alcohol didn't pick up the bottle. I did. And blaming it without changing myself would have just been me hiding again. I could blame stress. I could say life was heavy: bills, responsibilities, pressure, expectations, fatigue. I could say I was just trying to survive. But the hard truth hit me one day. Stress didn't control me, it exposed me. It showed me how I cope when life gets uncomfortable. It showed me what I run to instead of what I face. I could blame people who hurt me, and trust me, there were people who did real damage. People who disappointed me, betrayed me, let me down when I needed them most. I could replay those moments forever, but holding on to that pain didn't hurt them, it froze me. It kept me stuck in anger while life kept moving. And then it finally clicked. Blame helped me understand why I was broken, but ownership was the only thing that could rebuild me. The moment I stopped saying this happened to me and started saying what am I going to do about it, everything changed. That's where the real work started. If I created this version of my life through choices, habits, and patterns, that meant I could recreate it. Let me be very clear because this matters. Acknowledging pain is not weakness. Processing trauma is not victimhood. Healing is necessary. But staying stuck in your pain and refusing to evolve, that's a choice. At some point, pain stops being an explanation and starts becoming an excuse. And excuses feel safe, but they cost you your future. You can honor your pain without building your identity around it. Here's how people stay trapped in victim mode without even knowing it. They complain more than they act. They analyze more than they execute. They talk about what's wrong more than what they're building. They want sympathy more than solutions. They blame circumstances instead of habits. And the scariest part, they become comfortable being stuck. Because changing means risk, changing means accountability, changing means letting go of the story that protected you. Blame feels powerful, but it's actually powerless. Blaming your parents won't fix your finances. Blaming your ex won't heal your mindset. Blaming the system won't get you disciplined. Blaming trauma won't build your body or your business. Blame explains, ownership transforms. And once I understood that, everything changed. This part is uncomfortable but necessary. Your life is not one bad decision, it's a collection of repeated patterns. How you eat, how you cope, how you react, how you speak to yourself, how you manage your time, how you handle stress. These patterns compound. And the good news is, patterns can be broken, but only by people who stop seeing themselves as victims of circumstance and start seeing themselves as architects of their future. There was a point where I realized nobody was coming to save me. No one was going to knock on my door and say, "Hey, what up, Danny? We're here to fix your health, your finances, your mindset, your habits, and your future." It was all on me. And instead of feeling abandoned, I felt empowered. Because if it's on me, then I have control. Ownership looks like this: I chose this habit, now I choose differently. I allowed this pattern, now I interrupt it. I stayed too long, now I move forward. I avoided responsibility, now I embrace it. Ownership doesn't mean perfection, it means honesty. And honesty creates momentum. Victim mindset waits to feel ready. Ownership mindset acts while uncomfortable. You don't wait to feel confident to change. You change and confidence follows. You don't wait to feel healed to start building. You build and healing follows. Here's the shift that changes everything. You don't need a new job. You don't need a new city. You don't even need a new relationship. You need a new identity. An identity that says, I take responsibility. I do hard things. I keep promises to myself. I don't hide from discomfort. When your identity changes, your behavior follows. Let me talk directly to you for a second. If you've been stuck, if you've been frustrated, if you've been blaming, if you've been waiting, this isn't judgment. It's an invitation. You're not powerless. You're not broken. You're not behind. But you are responsible for what comes next. Stop playing the victim in a life you created. Not because life was fair, but because you deserve better than staying stuck. You don't have to deny your past to own your future. You just have to decide that this chapter ends differently. The moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What am I going to do about it?" that's the moment everything changes.